Hello, amazing English learners. Welcome back to Coffee English, where we brew the perfect blend of inspiration and practical wisdom for your English journey. I am absolutely thrilled to share something extraordinary with you today. Something that could completely transform how you approach learning English forever. Have you ever wondered how some people seem to absorb languages like magic? How they go from zero to sounding almost native in just a few years? How they develop that natural flow, that effortless rhythm that makes native speakers turn their heads and ask, "Wait, where are you from?" Today, we are diving into a story that will completely change how you think about learning English. We are going to explore the incredible journey of a young woman named Wiley's, who taught herself Norwegian from absolute zero and now sounds so natural that people refuse to believe she has only been learning for 3 years. When Norwegian speakers meet her, they are shocked. They ask her the same question over and over: "How is this possible?" They tell her about their own struggles with languages. They share stories of studying Spanish or French in school for 5 or 6 years, but still being unable to introduce themselves properly or have a basic conversation. But here is the beautiful part: her method works for any language, including English. The principles she discovered are universal. They tap into how your brain naturally acquires language. This episode will show you how to unlock your brain's natural language learning superpowers. You will discover why children learn languages so effortlessly, and how you can use their secrets as an adult learner, even if you feel like you have been struggling with English for years. You will learn why traditional grammar exercises might actually be slowing down your progress. You will understand how to create an English learning environment that works with your brain instead of against it. By the end of this episode, you will have a complete roadmap to transform your English learning from struggle to flow. You will have specific techniques you can start using today. You will understand the childlike approach that could accelerate your progress dramatically and help you finally achieve the fluency you have been dreaming about. So grab your favorite beverage, get comfortable, and prepare to revolutionize your English learning journey. This might be the most important episode you ever listen to for your English development. Let me ask you something fascinating that will open your mind to possibilities you might never have considered. Have you ever watched a 2-year-old child learning to speak? Really watch them carefully. Think about this incredible fact: children never sit down with grammar books. They never memorize verb conjugations or stress about sentence structure. They never worry about making mistakes or feeling embarrassed. Yet somehow, they master one of the most complex skills humans possess: language. Scientists have spent decades studying this phenomenon. They have discovered that children learn languages through what researchers call natural acquisition. Their brains are like incredibly sophisticated sponges, absorbing patterns, sounds, and meanings without conscious effort or formal instruction. Children do not analyze language, they experience it. They do not study language, they live it. They do not practice language, they play with it. A child hears, "Do you want some milk?" hundreds of times in different situations. Their brain automatically connects these sounds with the feeling of thirst, the sight of milk, the caring tone of their parent. No grammar explanation needed. No vocabulary cards required. Now, here is the question that changed everything for Wiley's and could change everything for you. What if we could recreate this natural process as adults? This is not about becoming a child again. That is impossible. This is not about pretending we do not have adult responsibilities or adult minds. This is about understanding the principles that make childlike learning so incredibly powerful and adapting them to our adult situation. The traditional approach tells us to study grammar rules first, memorize vocabulary lists, then try to practice. But what if we have been doing it completely backwards all along? What if the secret to language learning has been hiding in plain sight, demonstrated by every child who has ever learned to speak? Let me tell you about Wiley's and her revolutionary discovery that will change how you think about learning English forever. 3 years ago, Wiley's was just another adult language learner with a dream. She decided to learn Norwegian, not for school, not for a test, not because someone told her she had to. She wanted to learn Norwegian because she had fallen in love with Norway and wanted to move there. She wanted to make the language truly her own. But her goal was not just basic communication. Her goal was not just to get by or make herself understood. Her goal was ambitious, and some might say impossible. She wanted to speak Norwegian like a native speaker. She wanted Norwegian to become like a second mother tongue for her. When people hear her speak Norwegian today and learn she has only been studying for 3 years, they simply cannot believe it. Their reactions are always the same. Their eyes widen in disbelief. They shake their heads. They tell her about their own struggles, how they studied Spanish or French in school for 5, 6, even 7 years, but still cannot introduce themselves properly or have a basic conversation without feeling nervous and confused. They ask her the same question over and over. How is this possible? What is your secret? Are you some kind of language genius? But here is what made her different from millions of other language learners around the world. Instead of buying expensive grammar books or enrolling in traditional classes with boring exercises and memorization drills, she asked herself one simple but revolutionary question. How do children learn languages? This question led her to develop what I call the child within method, a completely natural approach that mimics how children acquire their first language, but adapts these principles for adult minds and adult lives. What makes this method so incredibly powerful is that it works with your brain's natural learning processes, not against them. It turns language learning from an uphill struggle into a natural, enjoyable flow. It transforms study time from boring work into exciting discovery. Most importantly, it produces results that traditional methods simply cannot match. The proof is in Wiley's herself. After just 3 years, native speakers cannot tell she is not one of them. First principle: listen before you speak, building your invisible language foundation. Wiley's realized something profound that most language courses completely ignore, something that could revolutionize your English learning starting today. Children spend their first 2 years of life primarily listening, not speaking, not reading, not writing, just listening, absorbing, taking in the sounds and rhythms of language like little sponges. During this crucial listening period, their brains are incredibly busy doing invisible work. They are identifying patterns, recognizing repeated sounds, understanding the rhythm and melody of the language. They are building a massive foundation of language knowledge before they even attempt to say their first word. Think about this. A 2-year-old child has already listened to approximately 15,000 hours of their native language before they speak their first sentence. 15,000 hours. That is more listening input than most adult language learners get in 5 years of traditional study. So Wiley's began her Norwegian journey with pure listening immersion, and this became the foundation of everything else she did. Every free moment of her day, while cleaning her room, playing computer games that did not require intense focus, walking to the store, exercising, cooking dinner, lying in bed before sleep, she filled with Norwegian audio. Podcasts about topics she did not understand, random conversations between strangers, TV shows with complex dialogue, radio programs, news broadcasts, anything and everything she could find in Norwegian. The key insight here is revolutionary. She did not worry about understanding everything. She did not stress about missing words or losing the meaning of conversations. Just like babies do not understand everything they hear, she let the language wash over her like music, trusting her brain to find patterns naturally and automatically. This approach goes against everything we are taught in traditional language classes. Usually, teachers want us to understand every word, every sentence, every grammatical structure before we move forward. They want us to analyze and break down everything we hear. But Wiley's discovered something amazing. Understanding comes naturally when you give your brain enough input over time. Your brain is designed to find patterns. It cannot help but start recognizing repeated sounds, common word combinations, and natural speech rhythms when it gets enough exposure. For your English learning, this means creating an English soundscape that surrounds your daily routine. Let English become the background music of your daily life, the soundtrack to your everyday activities. Listen to English podcasts while doing dishes. Play English videos while exercising or stretching. Fall asleep to gentle English conversations or audiobooks. Have English radio or music playing while you work on tasks that do not require your full attention. Choose content that interests you, even if it seems too difficult right now. If you love cooking, listen to English cooking shows. If you are interested in technology, find English tech podcasts. If you enjoy stories, listen to English audiobooks or story podcasts. Your brain will start recognizing patterns without your conscious effort. One day, and this day will come sooner than you expect, you will suddenly understand a phrase you have heard hundreds of times. This is your brain connecting all the dots naturally, automatically, effortlessly. This listening foundation is invisible but incredibly powerful. It is preparing your mouth, your ear, and your brain for everything that comes next. Second principle, repetition creates magic, the power of deep learning over wide learning. Children love repetition in a way that adults find almost annoying and pointless. They want the same story read to them dozens of times until they know it by heart. They watch the same movie over and over until they can recite the dialogue. They sing the same songs repeatedly without getting bored. Adults usually think this is wasteful. We want variety, new content, fresh material all the time. We get bored easily and jump from one resource to another, always looking for something new and exciting. But children are actually demonstrating one of the most powerful learning principles in existence, and Wiley's adopted this approach brilliantly. It became the secret weapon of her method. Instead of trying to consume as much Norwegian content as possible, she would find scenes from Norwegian TV shows or movies that she really enjoyed, not entire episodes or full movies, but specific scenes, maybe 2 to 5 minutes long. She would break them down word by word, understand every meaning, look up every unknown word, then listen to them repeatedly until they became completely automatic. She would take a single dialogue and listen to it so many times that the rhythm, the melody, the natural flow became part of her muscle memory. The words would flow in her mind even when she was not actively listening. She could hear the voices of the actors in her head, complete with their exact pronunciation, intonation, and emotional expression. Here is what happens during this deep repetition that most people do not understand. Your brain stops translating and starts thinking directly in the target language. The phrases become as natural and automatic as your native language expressions. When you hear a phrase like, "How are you doing?" in English for the 1,000th time, you do not translate it in your head anymore. You just know what it means instantly and completely. The same thing happens when you deeply repeat quality content in your target language. This is where most adult learners make a huge mistake. We want variety, new content, fresh material constantly. We get bored easily and jump from one resource to another. We think that seeing more content means learning more. But children teach us that deep repetition of quality content is far more powerful than surface exposure to lots of different material. It is better to know 10 English dialogues perfectly than to have watched 100 different videos once. Think about songs in your native language. You probably know hundreds of songs by heart because you heard them repeatedly over time. You did not study the lyrics. You did not analyze the grammar. You just heard them over and over until they became part of you. The same principle applies to language learning. When you repeat quality English content deeply, it becomes part of your automatic language system. The grammar becomes natural. The vocabulary becomes active. The pronunciation becomes effortless. For your English practice, choose content that you genuinely enjoy and find meaningful. Find a TV show episode, a movie scene, a podcast segment, a TED Talk, or even a song that really speaks to you. Spend a full week with that single piece of content. Listen to it multiple times daily, once in the morning, once during lunch, once before bed. Notice how your understanding deepens with each repetition. Notice how certain phrases start sounding natural and familiar. After a week of deep repetition, you will own that content completely. The language patterns will be programmed into your brain. You will be able to use similar structures naturally in your own conversations. Third principle: context over grammar rules, learning language as nature intended. Here is perhaps the most revolutionary aspect of Wiley's method, and the one that challenges everything traditional education has taught us about language learning. She completely avoided grammar exercises in the beginning. No verb conjugation tables, no sentence structure drills, no memorization of grammar rules, no boring workbook exercises. This might sound crazy to anyone who has studied languages in school, but her approach was based on a profound insight. Children learn perfect grammar without ever studying grammar rules. Instead of studying grammar, she learned grammar naturally through context and repetition. She would take sentences that she loved from movies, conversations, or books, write them down exactly as she heard them, and read them aloud repeatedly until they became completely automatic. Each sentence became a complete learning package. Vocabulary, grammar, pronunciation, and natural expression all wrapped together in one meaningful unit that she could use immediately. She created her own simple pronunciation notation system, Little marks and arrows above words to remember where stress fell, small symbols to remind her of difficult sounds, personal notes about rhythm and intonation. Nothing complicated or professional, just personal reminders that worked specifically for her brain and her learning style. When she encountered new grammar structures in her listening or reading, she did not immediately look up rules or explanations. Instead, she collected multiple examples of how native speakers used these structures naturally in real situations. She trusted that patterns would become clear through exposure and repetition rather than through analysis and memorization. This approach works because it mirrors exactly how your brain actually processes and learns language. When you speak your native language, you do not think about grammar rules. You do not analyze sentence structure before speaking. You just know what sounds right because you have heard it thousands of times in context. Think about this revolutionary idea. When children learn, "I am hungry," they do not analyze the verb to be or study present tense conjugation or memorize subject-verb agreement rules. They absorb the complete phrase as one meaningful unit connected to a real physical feeling they understand. Later, when they need to say, "I am tired," or "I am happy," or "I am excited," their brain naturally applies the same pattern. No conscious grammar analysis needed. No rule memorization required. The pattern just feels right because they have internalized it through repetition and context. For your English learning, start collecting beautiful sentences instead of studying abstract rules. When you hear a phrase that sounds natural and useful, maybe from a movie, a podcast, a conversation, or a song, write it down exactly as you heard it. Do not analyze it immediately. Do not break it apart. Just practice it repeatedly until it becomes automatic. Say it out loud multiple times. Use it in your own sentences. Trust that your brain will extract the grammar patterns naturally over time. Create a notebook of favorite English phrases and sentences. Treat them like treasures. These are your building blocks for natural, fluent expression. Fourth principle: write your way to fluency, creating your personal English world. This is where Wiley's genius truly shines, and where her method becomes deeply personal and incredibly powerful for long-term success. She began writing her own stories in Norwegian, even when her level was still very basic and she could barely form simple sentences. But she did not write about random topics from textbooks topics like "my summer vacation" or "describe your hometown" that bore everyone to tears. Instead, she wrote about her real life, what she actually did during the day, what she genuinely wanted to do tomorrow, her real thoughts about movies she watched, her honest feelings about experiences she had, her authentic dreams and hopes for the future. Here is why this approach is absolutely brilliant. When you write about your own life using your target language, you create personally meaningful content. This content matters to you emotionally, which makes it much easier to remember, internalize, and use naturally in conversations. You are not just learning random vocabulary and grammar structures. You are learning to express your real self, your actual thoughts, your genuine personality in English. This creates a deep emotional connection with the language that textbook exercises can never provide. She would start by writing 5 or 6 sentences about her day in English, then use Google Translate to see the Norwegian version. But she used Google Translate intelligently, not as a crutch to avoid learning, but as a teacher to show her new possibilities. She discovered something important that most people do not know. If you give Google Translate complete sentences with good context, it provides much better translations than single words or short phrases. She would write full paragraphs about her actual experiences, translate them, then study the Norwegian version like it was premium learning material created specifically for her needs. This created a powerful feedback loop that traditional language courses cannot provide. She was not just passively consuming the language from textbooks written by strangers about topics that did not interest her. She was actively creating with the language, expressing her own ideas, building her own personal vocabulary based on her actual life and genuine interests. As she progressed and became more confident, she would try writing directly in Norwegian first, then check her version against Google Translate to see how close she had gotten. She could track her improvement clearly as her original writing got closer and closer to the translated version. But here is where the real magic happened, the part that transformed her from a language learner into someone who could truly think and express herself naturally in Norwegian. She found native Norwegian speakers online who were willing to correct her personal stories and even record them for her. These corrected stories were not random textbook dialogues about buying bread or asking for directions that she would never actually use. These were her own thoughts, her own experiences, her own personality expressed in perfect Norwegian by native speakers who had carefully corrected every detail. She would take these corrected stories, which were about her real life, written in perfect Norwegian, and memorize them completely. She would spend 1 to 2 weeks on each story, reading it aloud repeatedly, listening to the native speaker recording, practicing until she knew every word, every pause, every emphasis by heart. These were not random texts that someone else had written. These were her own thoughts and experiences, now expressed in perfect Norwegian. When she had memorized these personal stories completely, something extraordinary happened. She could speak fluently and naturally about her life, her experiences, her thoughts without hesitation, because the language patterns were already programmed in her brain through her own meaningful content. She was not trying to remember vocabulary from lists. She was not struggling to apply grammar rules. She was simply expressing herself using language patterns that had become as natural as breathing. For your English learning, start writing about your real life today, even if your level feels too low. Write about what you did this morning, what you plan for the weekend, what you think about current events, how you feel about changes in your life. Use translation tools to help you express complex ideas, then treat those translations as valuable study material. Read them aloud repeatedly. Practice them until they become natural. If possible, find native English speakers online who can correct your writing and maybe even record it for you. There are many language exchange websites and apps where you can find helpful partners. Create your own English autobiography, one story at a time. This personal content will be much more memorable and useful than any textbook material because it comes from your heart and represents your real life. Fifth principle, strategic subtitle use, the multi-channel learning revolution. Wiley's developed an incredibly smart approach to using movies and TV shows that maximizes learning from every single viewing session. This technique alone could transform how you use English media for learning. Most people watch English movies or shows in one of two ways. Either with subtitles in their native language, which prevents them from practicing English listening or without subtitles at all, which can be frustrating and discouraging when they miss too much. But Wiley's created a strategic system that uses subtitles as a powerful learning tool rather than a crutch or a source of frustration. She would choose a short scene from a Norwegian show, maybe 3 to 5 minutes long, and watch it multiple times using different subtitle strategies. Each viewing had a specific purpose and provided different types of learning. First, she would watch the scene without any subtitles to see what she could understand naturally based on her listening skills, context clues, and visual information. This tested her current level and helped her brain focus on the sounds and rhythms of natural speech. Then she would watch the exact same scene with Norwegian subtitles to connect the sounds she had just heard with the written words. This helped her brain link pronunciation with spelling and reinforced vocabulary and expressions she was learning. Next, she would watch the same scene with English subtitles to fully understand the meaning, context, cultural references, and subtle humor or emotions that she might have missed. This ensured complete comprehension. Finally, she would return to Norwegian subtitles or no subtitles at all, and something amazing would happen. Suddenly, she could understand much more than in her first viewing, because her brain had connected all the pieces' sound, spelling, and meaning. This strategic subtitle use engages multiple learning channels simultaneously. Listening, reading, and comprehension all working together to reinforce the same content. It is like giving your brain 3 different ways to understand and remember the same information. For your English practice, apply this same powerful strategy. Choose a scene from an English show, movie, or even a YouTube video that interests you. Make sure it is not too long, 3 to 5 minutes is perfect. Watch it first without subtitles and try to understand as much as possible. Do not worry about missing things. Just focus on the sounds, the rhythm, the emotions. Then watch with English subtitles and notice how much more you understand when you can see the words. Pay attention to how written English connects to spoken English. If you speak a language other than English natively, you could also try watching with subtitles in your native language to make sure you understand everything completely. Finally, try watching without subtitles again and notice how much your understanding has improved. You will be amazed at the difference. 6th principle: speaking to yourself, building confidence in your private laboratory. This might sound strange or even embarrassing, but talking to yourself in English is one of the most powerful techniques you can use to build fluency and confidence. It is like having a private laboratory where you can experiment without fear. Wiley spent significant time talking to herself in Norwegian from very early in her learning journey. She would walk around her room, look in the mirror, and have complete conversations with herself in Norwegian. But here is the key. She would imagine she was the best Norwegian speaker in the world. She would pretend she was a confident, fluent speaker who had no doubts about her abilities. This mental approach helped her build confidence and experiment with pronunciation, intonation, and expression without fear of judgment or embarrassment. When you speak to yourself, you create a safe space where you can practice the rhythm and melody of English without worrying about making mistakes or being judged. You can try different accents, experiment with stress patterns, practice difficult sounds, and build your speaking muscles in a completely supportive environment. You can practice conversations you might have in real life. You can explain your opinions about movies, books, or current events. You can describe your day, your plans, your dreams. You can even practice presentations or job interviews. Try describing what you see around you in English. Look out your window and narrate what you observe. Explain what you are cooking for dinner. Tell yourself about a book you are reading or a movie you watched recently. The key is to make this a regular habit, not just an occasional exercise. Even 5 minutes daily of talking to yourself in English will build your confidence and fluency faster than you might imagine. 7th principle: reading like a language detective, finding gold in complex texts. Here is another revolutionary aspect of Wiley's approach that goes against traditional language learning advice. Most language courses tell you to start with simple, easy texts designed for your level. Children's books, graded readers, simplified stories written specifically for language learners. But Wiley's took a completely different approach. She decided to read real Norwegian literature, actual novels written for native speakers, not adapted or simplified in any way. This might sound impossible or discouraging, but she had a brilliant strategy that made it work. She understood that she could not read these complex books from beginning to end like a native speaker would. Instead, she carried a Norwegian novel with her everywhere and used it like a treasure hunt. She would open the book to any random page and scan it like a detective looking for clues. She was not trying to understand everything. She was looking for words, phrases, or sentences that she could recognize or partially understand. Even in the most difficult text, there are always some elements that match your current level. Maybe you recognize a few vocabulary words. Maybe you can guess the meaning of a sentence based on context. Maybe you understand the general topic even if you miss the details. When she found sentences or paragraphs that were close to her level things she could understand with a little effort and dictionary work, she would copy them into her notebook and work on them intensively. This approach gave her exposure to authentic, natural language while still working within her learning zone. She was seeing how the language really works in literature, not just in textbooks. For your English learning, try this treasure hunt approach with English books, articles, or even social media posts that interest you. Do not worry about understanding everything. Look for pieces you can work with. When you find sentences or paragraphs that are just slightly above your level, copy them and study them deeply. These authentic examples will teach you more about natural English than any textbook exercise. 8th and last principle: audio-text synchronization, training your brain's language processor. Wiley's discovered something powerful about combining reading and listening that most language learners never experience. She would often read Norwegian books while simultaneously listening to the audiobook version. This technique, which researchers call dual-channel processing, trains your brain to connect written and spoken language in powerful ways. When you read silently, your brain still needs to hear the words internally to understand them. If you are not sure how words sound, your reading speed and comprehension suffer dramatically. But when you read while listening to a native speaker, your brain learns the correct pronunciation automatically. You develop a more accurate internal voice for the language. Your reading speed increases because you are not stumbling over unknown pronunciations. Sometimes she would listen to a chapter first without reading, focusing entirely on developing her listening skills, and trying to understand as much as possible from audio alone. Then she would read the same chapter while listening, following along with the text as the narrator spoke. This helped her connect sounds to written forms and improved both her reading and listening simultaneously. For your English practice, find audiobooks, podcasts with transcripts, or even YouTube videos with captions. Start with content slightly below your current level so you can focus on the synchronization rather than struggling with comprehension. This technique will dramatically improve your pronunciation, reading speed, and overall feel for English rhythm and intonation. Before we wrap up this incredible journey through the Child Within method, I want to share something special with you. In each episode, I love to give you a powerful phrase that can immediately improve your English and inspire your learning journey. Today's phrase comes from the heart of natural learning and captures the essence of what we have been discussing. Practice makes permanent. This phrase reminds us that repetition does not just make perfect, it makes whatever we practice permanent in our minds and bodies. Every time we repeat something, we are programming our brains. This is why Wiley's method works so well. She was not just practicing Norwegian, she was making natural Norwegian speech patterns permanent through intelligent repetition. For example, I practiced that presentation so many times that the words became automatic. Practice makes permanent. Or she repeated those English phrases daily until they felt completely natural. As they say, practice makes permanent. Or do not just practice until you get it right. Practice until you cannot get it wrong. Practice makes permanent. Remember this phrase when you are tempted to rush through material or jump to new content too quickly. Quality repetition creates lasting fluency. Deep practice creates permanent improvement. So, what can we learn from Wiley's remarkable journey that you can apply to your English learning starting today? First, remember that your brain has incredible natural language learning abilities that you may never have fully used. You do not need to force grammar rules into your head through painful exercises and memorization drills. Your brain is designed to learn languages naturally through exposure, repetition, and meaningful use. Trust this process. Work with your brain, not against it. Second, embrace the power of deep repetition over wide exposure. It is better to know a small amount of English content perfectly than to have experienced a large amount of content superficially. Find English content you truly enjoy, a TV show, a podcast, a movie, a book, even a song, and go deep with it. Listen repeatedly until the rhythm becomes part of you. Study it until you own it completely. Third, create your own English world through writing about your real life, your genuine thoughts, your authentic experiences. Use tools like translation apps as teachers, not crutches. Build your personal English vocabulary around topics that matter to you. Fourth, use strategic approaches to media consumption. Do not just watch English content passively. Use the subtitle technique we discussed. Practice audio-text synchronization. Turn entertainment into powerful learning experiences. Fifth, talk to yourself in English regularly. Create a private space where you can experiment, practice, and build confidence without fear or judgment. Sixth, read like a detective. Do not be afraid of challenging English texts. Look for treasures you can understand and work with them intensively. Most importantly, trust the process and be patient with yourself. Wiley's reminds us that language learning is not about immediate results or quick fixes. It is about consistent daily exposure, intelligent practice, and gradual development over time. Language learning is a marathon, not a sprint. But with the right approach, the child within method, it can be an enjoyable, natural, and incredibly rewarding marathon. Your brain learned your first language brilliantly without any formal instruction. It can learn English the same way if you give it the right conditions and enough time. If this episode inspired you to try the child within method, I would love to hear about your experiences. Share your story in the comments. Tell us which techniques work best for you. Hit that like button if this episode helped you see language learning in a new way. Subscribe for more revolutionary learning strategies that actually work. Share this episode with someone who needs to hear this message. Your English journey is unique and beautiful. Trust yourself, embrace the natural process, and remember, you already have everything you need inside you to succeed. Every expert was once a beginner. Every fluent speaker was once exactly where you are now. The only difference between them and you is time and the right approach. You are not broken. Traditional methods might be broken, but you are perfectly capable of achieving the English fluency you dream about. Thank you for joining me today on Coffee English for this deep dive into the revolutionary child within method. I hope this episode has opened your mind to new possibilities and given you practical tools you can use immediately to transform your English learning experience. Remember, every expert was once a beginner. Every fluent speaker was once where you are now. Every person who speaks English beautifully started with the same challenges you face today. The difference is not talent or special ability. The difference is approach and persistence. Keep listening to English every day. Keep repeating quality content until it becomes part of you. Keep writing about your real life. Keep talking to yourself. Keep reading like a detective. Keep trusting the natural process. Most importantly, keep believing in yourself and your incredible potential. Until next time, keep brewing your English skills one cup at a time. This is Coffee English, signing off. Stay curious, stay motivated, and keep learning naturally.